this is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about how the DNC plans to have no debates, which it's a kind of, I guess it really shouldn't be a surprise, or it isn't a surprise. I guess it should be a surprise, but it's not a surprise. Joe Biden announced he does have some challengers. Who knows if more people want to jump in? Maybe they'll change their mind if Biden starts clearly losing his mind, more clear than I guess what we've witnessed to the degree that he's clearly not as he's on a decline. You know, people get older and they tend to do that, and he is quite old. But they're not doing any debates. But he does have one opponent or two opponents, but one is more credible than the other. But I guess most people would assume neither of them are credible. But Robert Kennedy Jr. was on ABC the other day, and they edited some things out at their discretion because they're like, oh, they were falsehoods. And people are kind of like, why didn't you just debunk them on air rather than cutting out a substantial, we assume, amount of the interview? And then at the end, like, oh, we cut out some stuff because he said some things that were untrue. And it's like, can't we be the judge of that? So I want to talk about that interview a little bit. Hillary Clinton made some comments about she doesn't understand. If you're a woman in a POC, why wouldn't you be just on fire to vote for Joe Biden right now? And also in Minnesota, they also struck some language from a bill that excluded man, I'm trying not to say the word, underage people who are adults who like underage children. I'm trying not to get flagged or something, but you guys can catch my drift. They struck them from, they were excluded originally in like protections for people with sexual orientations and stuff. And so people are concerned, like, are you trying to give them protections? And the Democrats are arguing like, well, no, we're just saying it was not a sexual orientation. So we'll talk about that, the implications of that, or where that's going or not going. And was that a good idea? Because it's weird and dark. And also want to talk about there's been escalation and other things that have come out with Steven Crowder and his tiff with he is getting a divorce. He did confirm that, and more details have come out. He came out, like, apparently his wife didn't want him to say anything publicly, so now there's leaked footage and stuff. I'm not going to play those things, but you guys can go search for them. But I mentioned the other day if he wanted things to be quiet, because he did call for privacy, but he also called out Candace Owens. So Candace Owens rebutted him after he claimed that she extorted him, but now she has a video saying that Steven Crowder's a monster, changed my mind, a riff off of his Change My Mind series. So I got some commentary about all that as well. So before we jump into everything, please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. Please make sure that you guys check out my merchandise, some of the stuff in the store, like the I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For. People really like that shirt. We got the goat hoodies and the t-shirts and other things like that. I don't have this at the store, but I actually designed this in 2016 for the Michigan Republican Party. I don't usually like wear it out or anything. It's just kind of my lounge about. But since we're going to play something from Hillary Clinton, I thought like the deplorables line was kind of appropriate. Because she's like the basket of deplorables. Such a awful thing to say, but also, I want to thank everyone who has decided to purchase my book. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion. It says coming soon. I have to swap that out. It is out. It's out on Barnes and Noble. It's out on Amazon. So here's the actual like physical book right here. I'm so grateful to my little sister who did this amazing art. Which, by the way, I think it will probably be accepted. I just submitted this in like a cover art contest or whatever. So if they select it, which I don't know why they wouldn't, I'll let you guys know so you guys can vote it and get it to number one. So anyway, go ahead and get your copy. I thank you to everyone who's gone out and purchased a copy on paperback, on ebook, on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble. Thank you so much. But let's keep pushing. Let's keep getting it. And it's got great information in here for not just theology, but it starts off with, well, it starts off observing how we've kind of shifted, not kind of, how we've drastically shifted from safe, legal, and rare to like no limitations, no restrictions. And so then it goes into, sorry, I hit the cord. Then it goes into biology. It goes into philosophy. It goes into rights. It goes into theology from there. And then it talks about why we need moral absolutes and intrinsic value and separation church and state. 'Cause people say, oh, well, separation church and state. Most people say they don't know where that came from. So I explain that and how everyone imposes their beliefs one way or another. Like people say, well, it's not, okay, it's a life, but it's not a valuable life. Well, that's a belief, right? That's a belief. So we're like arguing or debating our beliefs. So this book goes through a lot of different things, including the exceptions that people say, to have for abortions. It covers all those things. So it's a really good book, and also stresses like why we need to focus on redemption rather than condemnation for these women who've had abortions, and even the warping that has happened over time to get us to this point where we're like abortion on demand and why it's so immoral. So I thank you guys for picking it up. Go ahead and pick it up. There should be a link in the description if you're watching on Facebook and on YouTube. If not, I'm pretty sure I did put it in there. You can go to blacktnews.com and go right to the site, or if you can go to my Ninja Just Publishing, but you can just search my name on Amazon, Christina Elbar, or you could just search the title, which I don't know if you guys are going to forget the title. Of course, God is blatantly against abortion. And again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Cost a stream, cost to run my website, all that good stuff. So if you can support, thank you very much. God bless you. And thank you to everyone who has. So thank you guys for watching live. For folks in the chat, I see you guys. So first thing we're going to just tackle, I don't have a meme today, but I think this topic is meme enough. Starting off with Hillary Clinton, talking about how she thinks that women and POCs would just be crazy not to be fired up for Joe Biden.
Every confidence, they're going to build on their success and go further. So I'm for them on the merits, but I'm also for them because of the alternatives. I mean, oh my gosh, I don't know literally how any woman, any person of color can't be on fire to reelect, Biden and Harris because of what they've done, but also because of what could happen if we don't.
So what exactly have they done that we should be fired up and excited about? That's like overall good for the nation, for the country. It's been rough for a lot of people. I mean, I went grocery shopping last night. I only got a couple things. My bill was, $50, and maybe you're like, that's nothing depending where your income is. But I didn't get that many things. In the past, that would not have been that amount of grocery shopping trip. And the way that prices have just jumped and inflation has been so crazy. How difficult is it for families? It's me and my sister, and it's difficult for individuals all over the place. But how difficult is it when you have several mouths to feed that are depending on you? Like we went to Panera Bread the other day, and I got a meal, the same thing I've been getting forever, the steak and white cheddar panini. and a drink. And you could used to add a pastry for $1. They don't do that anymore. You can now add a pastry and it'll be 50% off. And so I got the sandwich and a drink, and it used to be like $10 or something like that. 11 if you got the pastry usually, or whatever. Now it's like, now it's 16. And so maybe $5 to you isn't a big jump, but you add like that stuff up like across time and how often, wherever you go, like those things add up, and they add up very quickly. So, I mean, so life has changed so much. I have not forgotten the push for the jab, the push, the coercion. We should not just pretend like that didn't happen, or pretend like everybody could just act on their freedom when Joe Biden is on tape literally saying, this isn't about your freedom, which we talked about that yesterday. But why would we be excited about Kamala Harris? They don't even like Kamala Harris. The reason why Kamala Harris, I guarantee you, is still the VP, is in the consideration going forward, is because of the hell that would probably descend upon Joe Biden and these people if they put aside their POC, check the box person who she's been picked because she is a woman of color and she's black enough for them. Joe Biden was saying a bunch of racist stuff. He has a really racist past, and doing things like, I don't think I mentioned this the other day. He was once asked, like, how are you going to compete, against all these other like Southern Democrats and other stuff like that? You're just a liberal or whatever. And he's just like, you don't know my state. My state was a slave state. And I'm like, bruh, did you just brag about being from a slave state? Legitimately, that is what happened. He had an interview with Chris Wallace, and he said he bragged about being from a slave state. On a side note, what's funny about Juneteenth and stuff, when people bring that up, it is a weird day to celebrate the end of slavery, because we still had slavery, including in Delaware, where Biden is from, presides. After that point of time. So it's kind of an odd day to pick the celebration. If you're in Texas, I get it, and Republicans did pick up that holiday and were celebrating it. Some of them, not all of them. We did, at least in the Republican Party. This is probably pushed by a couple different people, but we liked our Juneteenth celebration or whatever. But as far as like celebrating it as the end of slavery, it's not the end of slavery for the United States. So the state where Biden bragged about being a slave state, kept slavery going for a little bit longer than the Juneteenth date. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But he said racist stuff on the campaign trail, like the "you ain't black," which is this Hillary Clinton kind of quote. It's not quite to that level of "you ain't black." But if you're a POC and you're a woman, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're expected to do: be excited and to vote for Kamala and to vote for Joe Biden. So he had those comments, and Charlemagne and a bunch of other black people got together and said, you need to pick a black woman. He was already going to pick a woman, and they're like, you need to pick a black woman. And I thought there were other black women who had like less problematic things out in the atmosphere than Kamala Harris that he could have probably picked. But he picked Kamala Harris, so someone who has had, she accused him of keeping her from integrating in schools. So it's a bold pick, but she's not very good at her job. She does very little things. They trot her out maybe on special occasions to say like, hey, we need abortion rights because of liberty and the pursuit of happiness, and we'll omit things like life. So they'll trot her out in special circumstances, but she's just really not good at her job. So I wanted to just play a couple of her word salads, as examples of why she's not out there too much, but these are a little funny.
The governor and we were all doing a tour of the library here and talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children.
Are we all excited about the passage of time? Okay, this one's recent.
So I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past but the future.
I don't know how old, not gonna kind of get off track, but I just read the sign that was behind one of those young women, and I don't know how old they were, but it said Students for Reproductive Freedom. And isn't that like, and I know so many of these people who get up and argue for abortion and stuff are really young people, especially like on platforms like TikTok and stuff. But how creepy is it that there's all these young women who are like so gung-ho and like passionate about the termination of their unborn child to the point where they don't think that they are equal or have equal rights, or if they don't have access to this. When Jennifer Lawrence had an interview and she said that basically that people, if you don't support reproductive freedom, you don't think women are equal or something. I mean, isn't that just kind of like admitting that you don't think without abortion that women are equal to men? Because this is just something, giving birth is something that we are inherently naturally designed to do. So if you think that we don't, if without us having this capability to have an abortion, that we're not, if that means we're not equal to men, then that just means in our inherent nature, then we're just not equal to men. So, and this is a special thing you want women to be able to do, because men can't, dodge their parental responsibility, period. I mean, they can, but you're going to have the government following them and say, pay child support or something. But, they certainly can't do it, legally through violence. So, it's just really creepy how passionate young people are. Like, go out there, live your life, look and make your dreams come true, and focus on your education, all that other kind of stuff. But if you don't want a baby in the picture, you don't have to make a baby. There are options. But anyway, I really like this Kamala Harris clip right here.
At what point does the administration say, you know what, this strategy isn't working, we're going to change strategies? 6 former administration officials last week wrote that open letter urging the administration to change course, to change strategy. Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down.
So it is time for us to do what we have been doing. That time is every day. I actually made that a TikTok sound, and I dressed in a suit and I had pearls on, and like, I don't drink. I don't have any wine or anything, but I think I had a glass, and I had some white grape juice. So it looked winey enough, in my opinion. And and I just had her sound coming out like, it's time to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. She sounds quite not with it, like she's on the sauce. So and burst of her in the Senate were one thing, I guess, to make her look like, oh, girl boss or something. I never liked Kamala Harris. She was my least favorite out of all the Democrats who are running. And I'm a person who, like, man, I really hope Joe Biden finishes his term just to deprive her of the presidency. I would really, 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 really hate for her to be president. She's the worst. So, No, I'm not excited. I am a black woman. I am not excited about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton. And that doesn't make me less black, and it certainly doesn't make me less of a woman if you have the courage to even say what that is. And that's another thing. We have to keep going back to this. Hillary Clinton says, women, how can they not be excited to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Why would they be excited when they won't even say what that is? When they have people men who dress up, grow their hair out long and dress up in dresses or whatever. Some of them who steal luggage from women, right? Who they put in their administration that they'll deem as like women or whatever, non-binary, however they identify. And real women are getting the shaft in this. Their sports aren't protected. Their spaces aren't, their sex segregated spaces aren't protected. Their locker rooms, so we can't just forget about all that stuff. I'm sorry, guys. So no, I'm not excited. I don't think any woman should be excited, and maybe have to make a whole darn article or something about it. But no, we don't have reason to be excited for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, especially not as women. I think especially as POCs, which POC is just a term for not white people. So I don't think any race has to be excited about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. If you're excited about them on an individual level for whatever reason, that's on you. But Hillary Clinton had all that dogma that she had before in the campaign trail. And people would, they expected women to just support her because it's the I'm with her. So now they're just continuing to transfer those ideas, and it's just ridiculous. No, I don't want to play those games, and I'm not interested in their ticket in the least bit. And going off of that, they are not offering any debates. The DNC is not offering any debates. They said they're not sponsoring any debates. And again, I'm not surprised. It should be surprising. They should offer debates if it's an open primary and there are people competing. Like they can have a threshold or whatever that the opponents have to meet, and maybe they can make it even kind of high or whatnot, but they don't plan on sponsoring any debates. Now you have Robert Kennedy Jr., who has announced, his announcement video was pretty good, actually. He's a Democrat. So there's things about it that sounded still kind of America First, actually. But people don't like him particularly. Like he was a big environmentalist and stuff in the day, but people really praise him for his activism with that. But they don't like his activism as far as like with vaxes and stuff. And particularly, he's been fighting these folks for a long time, but particularly as of late, there was a whole pandemic. And so he had an interview with ABC, and they just cut out some stuff. They cut out some stuff, and at the end, they said, hey, we decided to cut out some certain things because of, they were conspiratorial, which... people are saying, why didn't you just debunk them on air? Why just decide to not air them at all? Because now we don't know exactly what he said to judge if it was Crazy Town. But now we're suspicious of you because you didn't have the guts to air it. And it just kind of seems like you're silencing dissent, which we know people have been doing, at least on social media and other places. So now you're a major news network doing the same to someone who's running for president of the United States, and you think that they're too dangerous to air what they're saying on things that you say are just like absolutely debunked. If it's absolutely debunked, it shouldn't be that hard to challenge him and throw that out there and make him sound like a fool. Would that not be the best route to go if you want to discredit him in the eyes of the people? Just like totally own him in the debate. That's what you should be doing. But censoring him just makes people go, they're censoring our person, especially people who are like anti-vax, right? And there's people on the right, but there's certainly people on the left who are anti-vax, who are concerned about these things. I know people who, I don't know anyone who's claimed, I don't think I know anyone who has claimed that they've had, like personally anyone who's had kids from like autism and vaccines or anything like that. But I do know people who have children who have been harmed. And that is a possibility when they give you the list of things that can happen. it's on there, from so it is possible to receive some kind of harm. Not just their children. I know adults who've been harmed, who were in the military and stuff, and were harmed from different jabs that they had to take. I know people who've with the pandemic as of recently, they took the vax, and I know someone who had a heart attack. I know someone who had a clot and their leg had to be removed. There's a heartbreaking story I've shown and shared of a father just sobbing because his son passed away. There's a couple of weird stories with kids passing away. Now all the like died suddenly stuff, some of that stuff is like over exaggeration, but there are stories definitely of people actually being harmed. It happens, and that's why when there's a risk like that, there needs to be a choice. But I'm going to play some of his interview from ABC, and it's going to be funny, the sort of things that they use. They really harp on his family to discredit him.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about you?
I think the public.
I'm going to fast forward this a little bit.
You've said in the past that there is a correlation between vaccines leading to autism. That's totally been debunked.
Wait a minute, who debunked it?
We have not seen any kind of scientific connection from the CDC, the World Health Organization, the National Academy of Sciences.
Those organizations are captive agencies, Lindsay.
And so you think they're all in cahoots?
Yeah, they're all captive.
You've discussed the Kennedy family. As like any family, there are disagreements. But I think what makes it different here is that several of your relatives have not just said that they disagree with you, but they've called you dangerous. And as you're probably well aware, there were two of your siblings and a niece who wrote in a Politico article back in 2019. He's helped to spread dangerous misinformation over social media and is complicit in sowing distrust of science behind vaccines. We stand behind him in his ongoing fight to protect our environment. However, on vaccines, he's wrong. Your sister Carrie has said, I love my brother Bobby, but I do not share or endorse his opinions on many issues, including the COVID pandemic, vaccinations, and the role of social media platforms in policing false information.
So, so this is funny to me right here, because I'm like, people, if you talk to all my siblings are pretty much in agreement with different political stances. Like in my immediate family, we're all pretty much on the same page. If you go to like cousins or aunts and uncles, you will see diverse opinions, and there's been some heated arguments and stuff, times where I've had to like bow out and be like, I'm gonna, I respect you as an elder person, and I'm gonna not engage because I don't want things to get disrespectful. So families do have a lot of different views, and she's obviously using his family to try to discredit him here. But this thing about the role of social media platforms in policing false information, that's pretty interesting because, well, we know that they were very interested in policing not misinformation, things that were true, that they wanted like just kicked from the platform because they didn't think that we deserved to have that information, because they didn't know how we would process all that if we had context and the information. So there are things that they hid, there are things that that they lied to us about, things that we could not say at all, or you'd be kicked from social media. So I don't know what all remarks that they're particularly referring to, but it is true that social media was deplatforming people, was suppressing people who were spreading information that they did not like and want out there regarding COVID and stuff. And I'm not saying that people didn't spread misinformation, but again, if people are spreading things that are false, the important thing to do would be to try to combat that with the truth. And you know what? These major news organizations do things where they push out things that are wrong or phrased just dishonestly, and they'll let it go for a while, like retweet. And then after the damage is done, maybe they'll take it down, or maybe they'll have a tweet under it and say, oh, we have to issue a correction and a clarification. And the clarification will get very little replay, or retweets and stuff, but the lie has already been embedded within people's minds and their hearts. So these news organizations are not always good. but one thing that Twitter is doing now is that they have the community notes, which is so funny when people interject them, and especially when politicians say something and then people will interject the community notes and be like, what they said is false because here's the evidence that they were wrong here, and they'll have like a link or something underneath. And I've seen them do that to pretty high up people on Twitter, and it's kind of hilarious that those corrections are right there. But they try to do that basically on the other side before, but now Elon has allowed this thing to really be the thing to kind of strike back at these folks. So if you speaking out against like people being kicked off of platforms or silence on platforms for saying things, and again, things that were true. People did say bonkers things that weren't true. People said a lot of bonkers things during the pandemic that weren't true. Absolutely true. There are a lot of conspiracy theories and stuff going on, but there were things that people were saying that was true that they just wanted to suppress over and over and over again. One thing that they kept suppressing, I've mentioned this several times, is the effect that vaccines were having on women's menstrual cycle. And it was like more than a full year that they were like finally brought up studies. And then they announced it like, oh, well, yes, they can affect your period, but it's not a big deal. And I'm like, we already knew that. And in the article, they're like, well, this should make women like feel like validated. I'm like, we didn't need to feel validated. We knew what was happening. You just needed to shut up and believe us. Like, that's what we needed. But anyway, let's keep watching a little bit.
Your sister Rory has said, I admire his past work as an environmentalist. Because of him, we can swim in the Hudson. But due to a wide range of Bobby's positions, I'm supporting President Biden. I'm just curious, if you are not able to get your own sisters to vote for you for president, how would you make that appeal to American voters?
What is your family like? Do they agree with everything that you say and do?
They'd probably vote for me if I ran for president.
Yeah, well, I have siblings who will vote for me as well, but I have a big family, and many of them will not. I have two siblings who came to my announcement, and a lot of other relatives as well. But I mean, there's disagreements, but I love my family, and my family in particular, we grew up arguing with each other, and we are very, very, I think, say comfortable disagreeing with each other, both publicly and privately, on issues, and at the same time loving each other. And that's something that I think is a lesson that we ought to learn for this country. We can disagree with each other without hating each other, without vilifying each other, without marginalizing each other.
I'm just making a distinction on just using your family's words, calling you dangerous. I was just using your family's words to call you dangerous, rather than saying that's not like the typical family that might have disagreements around the kitchen room
and
table.
How do you expect me to respond for that, other than saying they were wrong about the issue, that they consider me dangerous?
Oh, that's a fair response. And my other point is just that if you don't authorities.
Science is rarely static. There are very few.
I'm going to let him go on, but I thought it was a good point when he's just like, how do you expect me to respond to that when someone says that I'm dangerous, other than to say that they're wrong? Like, what other goal was there other than to start family drama or beef, or just to, make me look bad? Like, of course I'm going to say that they're wrong and I'm not a dangerous person, but the purpose of mentioning, hey, your family said that, is they don't want to insult him in that way, but they feel it's more credible coming from a family member and stuff. So that's messed up. That's messed up. And you know what now? Gosh, maybe it was last week, I was talking about the case where there was a man who shot the 16-year-old who came to his porch, and he got shot in the head and stuff, but he survived. And he had one grandson said that the grandfather wasn't racist or whatever, but there was another grandson who said that he was racist. And so my sister was talking to me after the show, and she just mentioned, she's like, I really don't like what that grandson did, accusing him of being racist. because think about all the family members that you don't, that are your family, but maybe you don't have a close relationship with. Maybe they don't like you that much. You know, and like, can you imagine like maybe someone who's not too particularly fond of you in your family getting in front of a camera and saying stuff about you? And then he didn't have any good explanations of why he was racist. It's just like he was an older white Christian male who watches Fox News. This, I guess, just kind of how they are. So he didn't have any evidence of his grandpa being racist. He just kind of assumed or that he was, because that's just how those people are. You know, I didn't even think he said white. He didn't even say white. He just said older Christian. I'm like, this would like include so many people, you know? So using the family to dig at him, it is dirty. It's pretty dirty, especially knowing that they chopped this up so much that we don't know how these full exchanges work. I'd like to see the full thing. I really would.
Scientific principles that are immovable. Science is dynamic, and you know, look, I've argued over probably, or I've litigated over 500 lawsuits. In every one of those lawsuits, there are experts, authorities on one side, and experts and authorities on the other that are saying the exact opposite thing. So no, I don't trust authority. I need to see the details. I need to see the science.
Your final pitch to voters.
My pitch would be that, you know, we need to look at what's happened to our country. We need to try to arrest this emergence of corporatism, of the corrupt merger of state and corporate power that's undermining our values, that's strip mining our landscapes, that is stealing the assets of the middle class of this country, that is compromising the values of this country, that's keeping us in a constant state of war, and that is creating a nation that doesn't resemble the nation that, you know, we all love, which is a nation with a few handful of billionaires and widespread poverty, in which democracy does not have a prayer of continuing. And let's try to take a new path that will allow us to give our children a country that is, once again, a moral authority around the globe, an exemplary nation, and that has a booming middle class in this country that can sustain democracy.
So I'm going to let her say her little disclaimer that she added to the end. But yeah, that all sounded like really good stuff. Like his final pitch to voters. And they're not going to allow him to debate. Like, we'll see how things go on. Someone in the comments was like, if they didn't want me to like him, then they do like him now. And I'm like, silence will make people rally for the underdog more and then resent the establishment. That's what happened with Bernie. People did not like how Bernie was treated during the whole, you know, thing with Hillary Clinton. And to be frank, I guess, and fair, I don't think the DNC really owed him much, because he runs as an independent. So I don't personally think they really owed him much, but they destroyed their constituents, their vote, the people within their party, their faith in the process, and they were very bitter and angry. And I know people who were for Bernie who opted to vote for Trump. But it's funny that so many people saw Hillary as the establishment person, and then they decided to vote for Biden as if he's any less establishment than Hillary Clinton, you know? And people see the Clintons and they think they're all, you know, corrupt, etc. But Biden has been littered with corruption charges for a long time as well. But I don't know, so many people just had this like, oh, Grandpa Joe, he's there licking his ice cream like he's harmless. And that veil kind of came off a bit during the Afghanistan exit. So, I mean, his poll numbers started to really go down since that point in time. But he was always a corrupt politician who is a notorious liar, lies about crazy he lied about his grandfather dying in like 2 days before he was born in the same hospital the other day. Just totally false. I don't even know how you get something that wrong. I mean, I know people can tell stories that are wrong to you and you just repeat them, but just how do you get it wrong that your grandfather died 2 days before you were born in the hospital when he wasn't even the same like year? Like, I don't, but it doesn't, I guess the truth doesn't matter. You can just blurt out stuff, and he expects everyone to kind of cover for him and everyone to still go out and vote for him and be excited, you know, as Hillary Clinton said. But, you know, Kennedy here, he's got a platform that sounds a bit different. That sounds like he cares about that forgotten man and cares about how corporate America is kind of taking over on transforming into a life of its own that's overriding the will of like ordinary people. I think he's speaking some things that are very true that cross both sides of the aisle, but they'll never support someone like him because they like the old guard people like Biden. You know, he's not much different than Hillary Clinton. And the things that people claim they disliked about Trump, like Biden was far worse. Like, oh, Trump's a liar. Like, have you listened to Biden talk? Do you know his history? And people are like, oh, Trump's a racist. Like, are you crazy? Like, we can let's compose a list. I guarantee you, I have more evidence of Biden doing racist things and implementing policies that disproportionately impact like people of color or whatever. Like, you know, but just because there's disparate impact doesn't necessarily mean that something is racist or whatever. But he's like said some racist crap. And I'm not going to get into it all today, but I do have a shirt available at blacktnews.com that has a list of some of his racism on the back. It's Denounce White Supremacy, Defeat Joe Biden. Let me just pull up that shirt really quickly. Available at blacktnews.com. You can get it in short sleeve, or you can get it in long sleeve. I have the long sleeve one. It's a pretty comfortable shirt. So, yeah, it's available. But it's funny that people didn't want to vote for Hillary because they thought she was corrupt and they just voted for Joe Biden. But let me finish out this video and play her disclaimer.
We should note that during our conversation, Kennedy made false claims about the COVID-19 vaccines. Data shows that the COVID-19 vaccines prevented millions of hospitalizations and deaths from the disease. He also made misleading claims about the relationship between vaccination and autism. Research shows that vaccines and the ingredients used for the vaccines do not cause autism, including multiple studies involving more than 1 million children and major medical associations like the American Academy of Pediatrics and the advocacy group Autism Speaks. We've used our editorial judgment in not including extended portions of that exchange in our interview. We thank Mr. Kennedy for the conversation.
You thank him for the edited conversation that you just, chopped up some important things that, again, if he said things that were wrong, you could have just live fact checked him. That's your job, right? You ask questions during an interview, and if he said something wrong, just be like, no, there's data here, there's data there. But I would suspect that maybe she didn't do a very good job rebutting the things that he said. And I'm not even saying all the things that he says are true or not true. I know he's been fighting them for a long time. I can't say that I've been someone who's gone deep down that rabbit hole. But it is sketchy. Like, if you really think it's so absurd, then lay all the absurdity bare and debunk him. But editing him in that kind of way and then saying we're not going to have debates, you're just going to make people who want a different option rally behind the different option. And he doesn't sound awful. I'm not, I'm going to vote for the Republican candidate, but he doesn't sound awful. He said some things that really made sense. At least on the surface level. So Democrats got some issues. Democrats got some problems there, but that's not anything new. Speaking of Democrats, Minnesota, it's got a crazy thing going on where there was some legislation that was passed, or they struck some information from a law that was supposed to show that they had like it categorized what sexual orientations were protected, like classes and stuff were protected, and it excluded people who like younger people, right? If you catch my drift, I'm trying not to kind of use that word and get it flagged or something. And they struck out that language. Now they claim that they have a particular reason for it, and I'm not saying their reason doesn't make total sense, or totally doesn't make sense rather, but it is I don't know, it's a bit concerning. So I'll read the article. So Minnesota Dems strike language excluding pedophilia as protected category under the discrimination laws. St. Paul, Minnesota, a new bill, and this is from like a local Fox station, not Fox News, but like a local station. A new bill in the Minnesota legislature strikes language from the state's definition of sexual orientation for the purposes of discrimination and other state laws that excluded sexual attraction to a child as a protected category. HF 1655 added the term gender identity and generated a definition for the term to be used as a guide for related legal matters going forward. The new law also removed certain sections in the Human Rights Act that allow for discrimination based on sexual orientation, according to the bill's text. One of the sections removed broad and anti-discrimination laws around housing, including stripping a previous statute allowing residents seeking to rent out one of their extra rooms to deny applicants on the basis of their sex, marital status with regard to public assistance, sexual orientation, or disability. But the more shocking amendment included in HF 1655 is the removal of a physical or sexual attachment to children by an adult from the state's definition of sexual orientation. In a nutshell, Democrats in the legislature are seeking to eliminate the exclusion of pedophilia as a protected category when it comes to matters of discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation. The national desk, TND, reached out to numerous Minnesota state legislators for clarification on the matter and to inquire why such a category should be protected under Minnesota's anti-gay discrimination laws. And they said the bill updates outdated language that incorrectly ties pedophilia to a person's sexual orientation. Nothing in the bill changes or weakens any of the crimes against children or the state's ability to prosecute those who break the law. Minnesota House Judiciary Committee Chair Rep. Jamie Becker-Finn told TND in a statement, "Of course, pedophilia is not a sexual orientation, which is why the language never should have been included in the statutory definition in the first place. HF 1655 has garnered criticism online, but proponents of the bill argue the language being stricken worked to foster a discriminatory connection that attraction to children is related to one being attracted to members of the same sex." HF 1655 was introduced as part of the State House's Omnibus Civil Law Policy Bill, which is scheduled for Tuesday floor vote, according to Minnesota's Alpha News. The outlet reported that Republicans intend to introduce a competing amendment to clarify that adults with a physical or sexual attachment to children are not protected class under the state's human rights laws. So hopefully they won't mind that amendment. Minnesota is a really weird place right now. Very weird. I don't know, in some regards it seems like they're competing for California, but I don't think anyone's quite got anything on California yet. But I don't know, there's people working their way up there. So I guess their reasoning is they don't want it to be known as a sexual orientation, though there's plenty of people who've made that case. So I don't think that's a strong pitch. I would rather they just kept that in there. But they say relating it to sexual orientation breeds some kind of, I don't know, discriminatory kind of mindset toward same-sex attraction. But if you talk about sexual orientation, whether you're straight or you're gay, like you're same-sex attracted or you're bi or whatever, those are all sexual orientations. It's not just same-sex. So to feel as though it's just discriminatory toward gay people, and that's why you can't say that we have to exclude these people who are attracted to children. I don't think that tracks. We'll continue You can let me know what you guys think, but we'll continue like looking at the story, and if they don't accept that amendment, there's gonna be, well, I was gonna say there's gonna be some trouble. But I don't know what I'll do from here other than complain about it. But Minnesota, what the heck is going on with their state right now? What's going on with their state right now? Gosh, how creepy. How creepy. Moving on. So Steven Crowder, we talked the other day. There was these rumors that were coming out about Steven Crowder getting a divorce. And people start to have like the docket of his divorce proceedings or that she filed and etc. So it was coming out. And so like people were like, oh, this is a rumor, this is terrible, etc. blah, blah, blah. And as Steven was trending, and so I was reading through comments and whatnot. And so the next day, Steven addressed it on a show, and he said that he was getting a divorce. And it was such a bizarre video. He asked for privacy. And there are people who knew and have known for a while. Like Mike Cernovich said he's known for like 6 months or whatever. And so there's probably quite a few people in the conservative sphere who's known like basically since the beginning of the year and so on. Or maybe longer than that there was issues. But Steven's video was very odd. And I mentioned that I thought it was odd because he did call for privacy, and it's an awful thing for anyone to go through, especially since they have, twins that are, not very old. But his pitch or explanation of it was his values on marriage and how he views marriage is the same. He didn't want to get divorced. This is what his wife wanted. And in the state of Texas, he has no choice, and she can do it if she wants to. And, so I saw someone say, like, if you want this to not be a bigger thing, saying my wife is getting a divorce as if you wouldn't let her in any other circumstance is kind of that's obviously going to create commentary. And he also said that he made a mistake. He said there's no infidelity, which I don't know if that is or isn't true, but he said there was no infidelity, and he said that he made a mistake, as in he chose wrong. So that threw a lot of people off. Like, you chose the wrong woman. Like, this is the mother of your children. Like, you guys maybe things, you did things wrong. Maybe you both did things wrong and it fell apart, but you chose wrong. Like, do you regret getting married? Or it just opens up all these kind of doors. But the thing that led to obvious more drama about all this is that he brought up Candace Owens, and he claimed that she was extorting him. And he played a clip from months ago when they were having their beef. Like, this is back in like January, and with Daily Wire over his contract stuff. And after Candace, talked about him on Tim Pool and other stuff, eventually she did a video and said, I've learned some things about Steven Crowder, and I think we should all pray for him. Now, I'm going to be frank. I don't think that, it didn't come off as like, this is an awful thing, I guess to say. It didn't come off terribly sincere from me when watching it a bit, but she's like, we should pray for him. But she did throw out that she kind of maybe knew something, and that she would or wouldn't like put it out there. It would depend. And so that was his like definition of extortion. So I told you guys, I'm like, if he doesn't, what Steven should have done was just like, yes, I am getting divorced. Yes, but I still do believe in the value of marriage and family and raising kids. But unfortunately, this, didn't work out. But please keep me and my wife and our children in your prayers, and please respect our privacy. And that should have been like all that he said about it. But dragging in Candace Owens and playing an old clip of hers to stir up that drama, it was just going to lead to more drama and more conversation and more commentary about it. And he's not a moron, so I'm like, was the goal to just keep having drama? Was the goal to create content? Was the goal to point the finger at Candace Owens and to make her the villain as this is going on, so people can direct their malice toward her? especially because this is going at the same time that one of his former people who was on the show came out and said some things about Steven's behavior toward him that that's just a repeated track record that don't make Steven look very good, you know. So what was there some kind of goal there? I don't know, but it just wasn't wise to if you don't want drama, don't bring a Candace on. That happened immediately. Immediately, she made a video about Steven, claims for her. That's a crime that he's like accused her of, and she legally filed a cease and desist. And so her lawyers talked to his lawyers, etc., whatever, and they're like, oh no, that didn't meet the actual like threshold of actually accusing you of doing that, and so. Now, apparently, his wife didn't want him to speak about this at all, like publicly, and he has a very large platform, obviously. And Candace Owens, she even invited his wife to come on her show, and I'm like, this is petty. Like, it's just drama. It's just more drama. So, but she apparently didn't want Steven to talk about it. And then he talked about it. So her family released a statement, and the statement was not flattering about Steven. And there was a video released, and from a Ring camera, and had a pretty bizarre argument. Now we don't know all the context, and it was a couple minutes. So some people are like, I'm not gonna judge him off of this a little bit. It didn't make him look good. And it raised some red flags for me. And then there's also like a report that's gone along with it. However, something that is kind of alarming to me and red flags to me is people's response to it, saying like, oh, this is an abuse, or oh, this is a big deal, this is just a married couple fighting. Like, married couples have spats that are very unflattering that you obviously would not want to air their grievances or their arguments and stuff. But just because you might say things like, he told her that he didn't love her, for example, and she wanted to go get groceries, go to the grocery store, and he like flipped out, wouldn't let her, like, he didn't want her to take the keys to go to the grocery store. He's like, you're boxing me in, and then I won't be able to see my friends, or I won't be able to go to the gym. And it doesn't even seem like he had plans, but he just didn't like the idea of her being gone. And a lot of people are like, why doesn't a rich guy have a car for his wife? But maybe they do have a second car, and she just, it's in the shop, or there's so many things we don't know. But there were things that seemed kind of like, is this a control kind of thing? And people just like shrugging it off. I'm like, just because you might say things or do things that are regrettable within your marriage when you're in a heated debate or argument or whatever, doesn't mean that you should just shrug that off like, oh, that's just what couples do. Like, couples do things that sometimes are wrong. We can acknowledge that, like, let's give them some grace, but that was a bad thing. Like, it doesn't look good. Like, so I don't think it looks good. We can offer them grace. I just don't understand why he did that video if he didn't want it to kind of blow up. So some people have started to talk about it, and some people are being criticized for talking about it. Mike Cernovich was like, I've known this for like 6 months, didn't say a peep, didn't say a word, and then Steven himself does a video, and now people are upset because we're talking about it, because now it's like, things to talk about. He's just like, forget you guys. And I understand that sentiment, and I guess I agree with it, but I think it's really sad on all sides to watch something like this, but I'd implore them both to just think about their kids, and Steven definitely shouldn't have shot the shot at Candace. She should have just said, please, it's true that we are getting a divorce. Please keep me and my ex-wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife, and our children in your prayers, and please respect our privacy. And that should have been it. Really should have been it. But Candace Owens, again, she's released a few videos now, and the last one she released was going over the video and going over, his Hillary Crowder's statement with her family, and the article that was written in relation to it all, and it's titled "Steven Crowder's a Monster, Changed My Mind." So that was not the way to deal with the drama. I don't know how he is responding to it, if he did respond to it today or not, but he has a lot of followers that are going to bat for him, and it's okay to still like them both, but I just think it's sad. I think it's sad, and not everything is worth putting out there, guys. Not everything is worth putting out there. So I don't get his motivation. And I'm not saying he didn't have the right to call out Candace, because I did a TikTok, not a TikTok. I guess it was a TikTok, and then I put them on my YouTube shorts. And some people are like, "Oh, but she was wrong, and he had to call her out." I'm not saying that he didn't have the right to call her out, but you have to pick your battles, And if the goal was to make the drama die down and for privacy, I just wouldn't shoot at Candace if you don't want it to go to a place, it's just drama. It kind of seems like he's not dumb. So I just question the ultimate motivation, but keep him in your prayers. Still keep him in your prayers. Anyway, that's the show for today. That's all I got to say on that topic for now. And I don't really want to talk a lot about it, but again, it's such a icky, messy thing, and an awful thing for people to go through. But please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. Go check out my book, Of Course God is Blatantly Against Abortion. You guys can either go to blacktnews.com and easily find like the links to it to go find it in different places. You go to my book website, ninjajustpublishing.com. Or, you guys can just, search the title on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Just search my name. Some of you are actually following me on Amazon, so I appreciate that. I appreciate everyone who's going out and buying all my books, because this is my 16th book that I've published. I have 2 nonfiction books, and the rest are fiction with all kinds of different sort of themes. And I saw Nefarious the other night, and I mentioned that it reminded me of my book. There are things about it that remind me of my book series, Almost Alive, which has like demon hunters and stuff. So I write a ton of different things, but this book covers theology, of course, but also covers biology and philosophy, and why we need moral absolutes, and why we do have intrinsic value, and even if you don't really believe that, why it's important to at least act like that. Separation of church and state, the exceptions, life of a mother, was a woman is sexually assaulted, all sorts of things. If a mother, and then calling for your redemption over condemnation. It covers so many different things in this book, and it really questions the people who say that they're pro-choice Christians, and why it should be totally against your nature as a Christian to support abortion at all. So go ahead and pick it up if you haven't picked it up. And I thank you guys so much for going out and buying the book on ebook, on paperback, on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble and stuff. Very, very, very much appreciate it. You guys are the best. And if you didn't get your copy yet, go ahead and get your copy now. Get it now, get it now, get it now. And please leave a good review. God bless you guys. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. Costs a stream, costs to run my website, all that good stuff. So if you can support, I thank you for doing that. Thank you guys for watching live. Thank you guys for watching throughout the week. And I will see you guys on Monday. God bless.